Welcome to our Learn How to Collaborate with Your Teams on Documents in Real Time. This is a really high-level overview session of Microsoft Teams, and we've only set aside an hour today, but maybe we'll take a little less than that to talk you through some of the key aspects of Microsoft Teams. With everybody in isolation, Teams has become such an important tool, and we just wanted to share with you some of the features of it. Now, like I say, really high level. If you want to go to a deeper dive, we're going to do some more advanced sessions in the future, but we'd love to hear your feedback and the things that you're working with, struggling with, enjoying about Microsoft Teams. One thing that I will just mention really early on is that this is a Teams live webinar, which means that I'm about 30 seconds ahead of you. So if you have a question as we go through, you should see the Q&A icon on your control bar. And if you switch to that, if you have questions as you go along, or as I'm talking, please add them to this session and I'll address them at the end. Some people asked questions when they registered, so I'll be trying to answer those as we go through the session today. So, who am I? This is me. So I'm Sharon Sumner. Hopefully we've met in real life at an event before all of this happened. If not, lovely to meet you all. This is all of my details, who I am, what I've been up to. I've got a book coming out later this year about getting to value faster using the Office 365 toolset. But my role today is as CEO of Business Cloud Integration, who I'm doing this webinar for. So what we're going to do today is we're going to use a little interactive demo, and we're going to talk you through that. Not me. We'll switch voices so that you're not just listening to me all the time. So we're going to take you through this 5 or 6 minute video, and then what we'll do is we'll go through some of the various aspects of Teams that I want to highlight to you and talk about, and then we'll go through those, and then we'll get to Q&A at the end, like I say, with the questions that you've added. So let me just play this for you, and then we'll get to the detailed content.
Hi, and welcome to this Microsoft Teams demo to outline the usage of Microsoft Teams, the general layout of the UI, and how you'll be interacting with Teams on a day-to-day basis. So, to give you the overview, Microsoft Teams is the go-to tool for Office 365 communication and collaboration. You'll be able to converse and communicate with colleagues, collaborate on documents in real time, have meetings and calls, plan and review, all within the same space that is Microsoft Teams. So let's get started. Starting with navigation in Microsoft Teams, on the left-hand side, you have the navigation bar. You will use this bar to flip between activity, chat, Teams, meetings, files, and applications in Microsoft Teams. You'll be able to seamlessly flick between this content, simultaneously being able to chat, jump to a conversation, jump into a file, and so on. The key part of this navigation is the teams. So here I have a couple of teams that I am part of. These are favorited teams. I would also see teams that I am part of but haven't favorited. I will not see teams that I am not part of. I may be able to search for them if they are publicly available, but if not, I will not be able to see them. Within Teams, you have channels. These channels host different conversations, different files based on the channel title, which we normally refer to as a topic head. Each team comes with a general channel where most of your conversations will occur within the team, and other channels will be able to host different conversation types. For example, if you're in the education sector, your channels may be named after classes. If you're in the technology industry, your channels may be named after projects. So let's jump into the general channel. The general channel has a couple of conversations that are happening at the moment. We can see several things happening within these conversations. This first conversation, for example, someone has tagged someone and is discussing with them about a couple of documents which have been tagged here. More than documents can be tagged in Microsoft Teams. We can tag images, GIFs, stickers, emojis, some little fun things as well to make Teams feel more inclusive for everyone. The way the Teams feels, including the amount of channels that you have, as well as the tabs included within each channel to take you to content like files, websites, third-party tools, etc., are all designed by your team owners, which you can make recommendations to improve your day-to-day working. The idea of tabs within Teams is to provide one-click access to any type of content, whether that is third-party tools, websites like an internal intranet, or a popular document that is used across that particular team. So let's try interacting with Microsoft Teams. So I've been invited into this team, and immediately people are starting to make conversation with myself. Here someone has mentioned me, so it would only be fair if I replied back. And as I reply, everyone else is introducing me into the team. And as this is dynamic, it's all instant. There's no delay between myself replying and them replying back. So now I've been tagged in a document within this conversation. Through the magic of Teams, I'm immediately able to view that document in the Teams editor. By clicking on the document, I can see a live view of the document, and then on the right hand side I can see a conversation of what's just been happening within the document. People are already reacting to the document, and now I can also add my opinion to these chosen designs. So I'm going to pick design 2, and immediately I can get a response from that reaction. So now I have been privately messaged. So I'm going to switch to the chat pane. So here in these chats, I can see chats that I've been part of, as well as timestamps for when those chats were last active. So this person has just chatted me, asking me, can I let the social team know that we have a winner? And I'm going to say, sure. And this chat is just between me and this person. So previously I was in a conversation where everyone in the team could see what was going on, but here it is just between me and this other person. So now I've been mentioned in a conversation, and using the activity pane, I can immediately jump to this new notification. So I've been mentioned in this conversation here. I can see that my name is highlighted in color, and I can see that I've been mentioned using this little red tab here. So they've mentioned me for doing a really good job, and I can react to this conversation with some fun little things, with an image, with just some text, GIF, or custom memes. So here I'm just going to create a fun little meme and post that. And immediately people could start interacting with this conversation. They can also praise, they can also create their own memes, react, and so on. So this video covers the basics of using chats and channels, as well as conversations, Teams editor for opening files and having live conversations, as well as the difference between a conversation and a chat. So this covers the basics of what you'll be doing in Microsoft Teams on a day-to-day basis. The next video will aim to cover the usage of calls and meetings in Microsoft Teams. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.
What we showed you there was just the very basics that are available to you within Teams, and the point of the interactive demo is to show you it actually physically happening. And so let's talk about what those basics are. So what are Teams in themselves, conversations, chats, what's a meeting, how do we deal with externals, and the fun stuff that was also mentioned within there. So let's start with Teams. So a team is a collective group of people who've come together for some reason. Now, in an organization, we've seen that used for teams that are actually departments. We've seen that used across a virtual team. So say there is a project going on, like a office relocation. Maybe all of us are doing that now, where several people need to contribute from a financial, from a planning, from an IT perspective. And so you've got a team that spins up to develop and discuss a particular project. Or maybe it is for customer management within a team, where you're perhaps going to have a channel for each customer that you're dealing with. So a team itself is a focused group. Now, some of the confusion that arises in Microsoft Teams is, when do I create a team? When do I create a channel? And so those are some of the strategies that we help our customers to work out what's going to work best for you as an organization, what's going to scale, and what's going to not turn into a big dumping ground so that you've got such a massive list of teams that you're not quite sure where you need to be in those teams. So it does need a strategy, as with everything that requires an information architecture. You do need to know how you're going to be using Teams as an organization and be thinking about that in advance. Conversations then. So conversations, they've got multiple names, and Microsoft is just transitioning. So you'll now notice that while on this image it says conversation at the top, this is a conversation within a team itself. that we've now changed that language to call this a post. However, at the bottom, we're still calling it start a conversation. So there's a little bit of confusion about what a conversation is, but the point is that a conversation or a post is different to a chat. And as highlighted in the video, a conversation is usually within a either a general channel or a specific channel. So again, in the example where we have a commercial team and we have a channel per customer, we might be discussing in that channel's conversation information about a statement of work or a contract that we're developing with that customer. And as you can see here in this image, within that conversation, we can reference documents. We can just be having conversation where we can mention each other and bring people into the conversation, or we can outright start this marketing review. We can outright start a meeting right there from within that conversation channel. So they're super useful. And again, loads of strategies here around whether you should be using headings. There's the ability to mark a conversation item as important, although we have some people in our team that do that all the time. So you have to develop your strategies and your training around how you get people in your team to use those conversations to best advantage. Again, because a conversation can be in a channel, it can be very specific to the thing that you're talking about. So what we don't want to have is people using a general tab to have conversations that should be in an individual channel. So there is a little bit of learning to do to educate your teams to chat in the channel where it's relevant. Even though we know the whole team have access to the general channel, it can soon get very, very full when the conversation about a specific client in the example would be better in its own channel, because then you have a timeline and you have complete visibility of all things being discussed about that particular client in order. So the difference between a conversation and chat is literally the amount of people that can see that information. So the ability to start a new chat, you can see we've got this little pull-out image here because it's just in the top there and it's quite difficult to see. So you can either pick people from your contacts list, or you can start a new chat and start typing somebody's name and it will find them, which is actually quite handy to rejoin a chat that you can't find in your list of chats. And you can see that you can favorite people to chat with at the top of that list. For people that you're talking to frequently, you can pin them there. So a chat is a one-to-one conversation, or it doesn't actually have to be one-to-one. You can pick 6 people to be in a chat with you, but it is a private conversation with the group of people that you invite to the chat, as opposed to being available to everybody in a channel or a team to be able to see everything that's being discussed. So generally, this is used more for, you know, I'd like to get some progress on something. Could you please pop in and, you know, are you available to give me a bit of feedback and a bit of advice on something, where it's not relevant for the whole team to see you asking for that assistance, but, you know, you may move the conversation on to a conversation tab or a post once you've got that person's attention and you've discussed it with them. So then the third part, chat, conversations, and now we have meetings. So a common misconception about Microsoft Teams is that it is it's an AV platform. It's a webinar, or it's a video conferencing tool. This is really only a very small part of what Teams does, but it does do it beautifully now. We've evolved over the 3 years that I've been using Teams to have a really useful calendar in the back of Teams. So it's on the calendar tab on the left-hand side, and you should be able to see your entire calendar as it's shown in Microsoft Outlook. Again, one of the benefits of that complete integration across Office 365. Those meetings that are Teams meetings that are joinable will show a join button on the meeting when the time it becomes appropriate for that meeting, and you will be able to join it directly from this calendar, which again is a really useful link in. So you haven't got to pop out to Outlook to find the event to effectively join it. So that's really nice. You can also create live events from within the calendar within Teams, and it will work backwards and put that into Outlook for you. So joining straight from the calendar and being able to see all of your meetings, not just the Teams meetings, really useful. So one of the questions that we were asked on the registration page was, how do we invite people from outside the organisation to join a team? So the caveat here is that you need to have a strategy with IT as to how you're going to allow externals to take part in your teams. So one of the key things about Teams, and the difference really between Teams and something like SharePoint for containing the data that you're sharing and collaborating on in a team, is that the permission level. So in SharePoint, we can have visitor, read-only, up to full owner, user access to a document set. So it's really that fine-grained permission. Whereas in Microsoft Teams, it's kind of ones and zeros. You're either in or you're out. So if you're in a team, you have full contribute access to the files within that team setting. So letting an external person come into your organization means that you're giving them exactly that same trust within that team. So you need to really think long and hard about the governance of those external users. Now, a lot of organizations that we work with will do a kind of rollout where they introduce Microsoft Teams for internal people only, and then later they will add the ability to add a member as an external user. So to be able to add a member that is an external user, what will happen on this add member icon that we're showing you here is that it will let you put in that user's email address. So Office 365 will still need to validate that user, so it will look at your own Active Directory where this person will have needed to be added as a guest. So you'll find that there is a step for IT to be involved in making sure that that external user is invited into your Azure Active Directory to make this possible. And also, if you're not into adding externals into your teams at all because you want to keep it internal and private and confidential usage, then those external team members, the ability to invite them to the team can be turned off. Now, something not to confuse here is the fact that an external user does not need to be added to your team to be invited to a meeting. So a meeting is much like a calendar event that is Teams enabled, in that you will be sent a link within that meeting request to jump into a team. It doesn't mean that you have any authorization or any credentials on the organization that you're joining because you've been invited to a team. So those things often get confused. Adding an external means fully allowing them to collaborate, chat, edit the files within a team, whereas just inviting somebody to a meeting is just like in your Outlook calendar when you invite somebody to have a telephone conversation. So let's just make sure that we understand the differences of those two. So some fun stuff, as we mentioned there too. So you can do, as you were showing in the video, those little memes. You can put in some GIFs. There are some animated GIFs and some stickers, and it can get quite fun. Now, what I would say is that Microsoft Teams is a business tool, so certainly at the moment we need a bit of fun around what it is that we're doing, just to break up the whole isolation situation with COVID. But largely these are business conversations. So there's a time and place of when to use the fun stuff and when not. Now, what you can do is you can actually turn off this feature if you don't want this involved in your teams at all. But I would say that as long as teams have some respect for when and how to use this, we find that it actually breaks up some of the conversations quite nicely. And what you could find that you do is you end up having a team member who'll put in a Friday Funny into an all organization channel and kind of keep this on a track where everybody's involved, and you can either go to that channel or not. That's up to you, so that you don't end up with people who don't like this kind of fun stuff and people that do. An important one to mention just at the bottom there is the custom backgrounds. You'll notice that I've pinched our web page to sit behind me at the moment. So custom backgrounds is pretty new. I think that's been out for maybe a week, if that. And this is now on where you would normally have your background blur. You can now set a custom background, and we can show you, if you just reach out, where that folder is to be able to put the background in, to be able to be shown that. There's also a size that you need the image to be for it to render properly. So that's quite good fun. So some of the latest stuff that has arrived in Teams over the 3 years that it's been live, I'm going to show you here. This is not the brand new stuff. I'll show you that in a second. But let's just go through some of these, starting with private channels. So in real life, Teams that are established using a department model will often have a hierarchy. And what that means is that there will be some parts of a team discussion, files, etc., that actually aren't appropriate for everybody to see, but would be useful for those that need to see them, for them to be within the context of that team. So the example here is marketing, where not everybody in the marketing team needs to see the strategy and the budget. It's useful for people to see that it's being discussed, but when they click on that, they won't be able to get into that channel because they are private members. Now, how this is administered under the hood is it actually creates a brand new SharePoint site collection for every private channel. And what that means is that ones and zeros of I'm either a member or I'm not apply to these private channels as well. So you can be a member of marketing, but not a member of the budget files, which means that even within SharePoint, you won't see those files at all. So it means that it's added yet another layer of member or not member to a subgroup of that team. In real life, these are really, really useful. I've seen these overused massively, and there was also a lot of debate when they came online as to whether people would in fact use them or approved of them. From a governance point of view, it can mean that you end up with more channels than you were intending to have because people are subdividing the team. So we do have to be a little bit careful on balance, whether the information, if we started to see too many private channels within this team, should that actually be another team with a different member set? So again, a little bit of governance, a little bit of planning required from the business to understand how users are going to be interacting with these channels. This is actually an improved feature, and the reason that I've put this in here is because not only can you, as you can see from the image here, you can go to a SharePoint site and on an individual document, so this is a PowerPoint document, we have this option here at the bottom of make this a tab. And what that will do is it will make it a tab in your team. And as you click on that, it will give you the PowerPoint presentation. So that's really useful from a SharePoint point of view. But for me, the improvement on how you add SharePoint into a team is really fundamental, especially when we move on to improving the functionality within Microsoft Teams further than what is delivered to us out of the box. So I'll mention it at the end, but I've done some videos on business applications that you can develop for a team using some simple technology with SharePoint lists, document libraries, and a little bit of Power Automate or Power Apps in the background. And you can add those as separate tabs. But the benefit here, the bit that changed for me, is that on that plus button at the top of every team, so you'll see Conversations, Files, Wiki, and then a plus button, you can add in, if you now select SharePoint, it will nicely point to SharePoint pages, SharePoint libraries, and SharePoint lists that you can pick up from the team site that's relevant to your team, or it will give you the opportunity to put in a URL and point to another team's site. Now, the benefit of that is that previously everything for SharePoint had to be added as a web page as a URL, which wasn't super flexible. Now it's got the context of its own team, and that's really quite a fundamental improvement because we know that by default, everybody in the team has permission to see those document libraries, so it's way more functional. So Power BI in tabs, this is not new at all, but I just wanted to bring this to your attention because having a scorecard or any kind of reporting directly within the team tab is one of the things that I've seen as being incredibly useful for the organizations that we've worked with as business cloud integration. So if an organization is looking at, for example, if you have a team that is the IT support team, and perhaps we have individual channels for the groups within the business that we're supporting, you could very quickly have this is all of the support that we're doing with the marketing team, and we could have a Power BI report in there showing how many open tickets there are, what our level of satisfaction is with that particular area of the business from your business data, whether that business data is gathered from everything from an Excel spreadsheet to the common data service behind Dynamics 365. What this is it's a bit of business information directly back to a team while in that single pane of glass kind of environment that Teams provides. So it's just showing you that really it's not only massively extensible, but can really help very quickly getting to the information that your team need to be effective. So websites and tabs I briefly mentioned. Now, the best use for this is obviously a situation like this where we have a cloud-based service that we want to quickly jump out to in the context of the particular team that we're in. So, for example, if I am in the marketing team and I want to easily and quickly be able to see what my current holiday entitlement is, or to book a holiday, there's no jumping out to the intranet or to another team to be able to book that. We can bring in a tab here that links to an external source. Now that may need you to log in again to go to that particular site, or it may be if it's, if you're just taking people to the BBC site, or if you're in a marketing team and you're taking people to the appropriate Twitter page that's relevant to your profile, you can just add these in here for quick access, and it really is quite a useful way to add information to a team that's relevant to what the team is doing. So what's coming? What's the exciting stuff? Well, loads of features here that you may have seen advertised in the press, or you may have thought should have been here to begin with. So let's go through these one by one. So offline support. Now for me, this is a fundamental one because I spend a lot of time on my mobile phone, and certainly at the moment, I'm trying to separate from the PC after the end of the working day, but that does mean that I end up carrying on my phone. Well, there are some rooms in my house where the Wi-Fi isn't great and the 4G isn't great, and I go to load up Teams because to check if there have been any messages, and I can't get online because I don't have that data connection. So this is to really provide you access to Teams without necessarily having to be online. Now that does mean that any conversation pieces that you put up there, or any changes to any files that you work on your phone or whatever device that is, laptop, etc., while you're not connected, won't be updated until you're next connected, but it's better to have access to that data because sometimes you only need it in a read-only fashion. This is my favorite new feature. Now I've seen this demoed, and the moment I saw it demoed, it just made so much sense to me. I went back to Teams and I was constantly double clicking on every chat that I was having, and unfortunately it's not there yet. But I probably do this every other day. So this one is coming, and it is coming soon. I'm not quite sure if it's this month or within this quarter for the updates. But certainly being able to double click on a chat and for that window to pop out. Now, anybody that's been using Teams for a little while will know that we do get a little bit of screen hop. So you jump into a document and you're reviewing it within the Teams editor, and somebody will pop up on a conversation, and it's just compelling to be able to, you just want to hit the chat window to see what that conversation is. Now, if the active conversations that you were having were in pop-out windows, you would see it appear over here, but you wouldn't effectively change your view. So because you want to know what that chat is, you flick Windows, and then you've somehow got to get back to where you were within the document that you were editing. So this is going to be a massive efficiency change for me. And the fact that Teams within the app is only within a single app is now going to change because we're going to have these pop-out windows. So it means that the top 3 people that you're in conversation with could perhaps be 3 windows on the side, as well as whatever it is you're doing within Teams itself. So having seen this in action, this is going to be a game changer. People will love this feature. Bookings app. So the introduction of the Teams booking, which is based on Microsoft Bookings, is really powerful for small businesses that are using the Bookings app to make appointments within the business. So we've got a link here so that you can see this in action. I don't personally use this, but I know a lot of organizations, certainly the smaller businesses, who are using this for booking appointments or for effectively managing a diary through the bookings themselves. So that's now one of those applications that's being integrated into Teams, so it will natively be available to you. Noise suppression. So loads of us working at home at the moment, noisy backgrounds. It's a cat for me, and I'm surprised he's not managed to disturb us yet. And anything that in the background can clearly be determined as not the noise that you're looking for is going to be suppressed, in the same way that cancellation, noise cancellation, headphones work, it is detecting anything outside of the mainstream of the sound, and it's going to suppress that. Again, this will be a really cool feature certainly for the remote working situation we're in at the moment, but for making those presentations and conversations far more professional and focused around the topic that you're on. So I think this is going to be a really cool feature. The problem with this one is going to be the bandwidth required for it. So I'm not quite sure if this one's going to go live in the short term, but I know there's a lot of demand for it. Again, other tools out there on the web, if we were to look at video conferencing tools and meeting tools specifically, rather than the overall business tool that Microsoft Teams is, have functionality like raise your hand already. So the way that this is going to work is that if you can see everybody's video on your screen simultaneously during a conversation or a meeting, and perhaps I'm presenting, and everybody is on mute, or I'm leading the conversation and I can see all of their faces, but I'm the one doing the talking, what they'll be able to do is to raise their hand as a feature, and this will highlight their feed and put a little icon in so that I know that this person has got something to say. They don't want to come off mic and interrupt me. Anybody that's done that will know that it's a little slow to come off mute and actually say something and then flick back on mute again. So this just allows that person to say, hey, I need to contribute when you've got a second. Really nice feature. And the one that everybody's been talking about is to get more people in the view. So at the moment we have 4 people available on the screen. And again, so this comes from a place of business usage. So because Microsoft Teams is an Office 365 and therefore a business product, the thinking behind the 2x2 was focus. So generally you don't have more than 4 active participants. 4 active participants in a conversation, even though there may be 20 people in the meeting, which is why the 2x2. Now, due to demand, Microsoft have very quickly put through a change to allow that to be 3x3. So that's 9 people on the screen. And I would say, arguably, you don't need to see all 200 people in tiny little pictures on the screen to know that you're in a meeting with a great deal of people. But again, I do support extending this because certainly small team meetings, generally around 9 people is the right number, and so I think that's going to be a really nice feature. Now this one we're expecting end of April, so somewhere in the next 8 days for this one to come live, and again I think that's going to be a bit of a game changer for Teams. So that's really all of the content that we have to present to you today. Some of the questions that we were asked prior to the session were, how do we add people from outside of the organisation, which hopefully I've covered for you, to get an overview of the platform versus other products. So again, one of the things to mention here is that Office 365 is the mother product, or an Office 365 tenancy for Microsoft Teams. So Microsoft Teams isn't just a meeting tool. So we have files in there. We have the ability for complete integration to the rest of the tools in the tool set. So we can open in Word directly from Teams. We can open in SharePoint. We can be now, I don't know if anybody saw this, but even this last week, there's been an upgrade to Outlook where you can now save attachments directly to Teams. So all of this technology is because of that integration. So where everybody is saying, well, how is it different to other products? One of the ones we often get talked about is Skype. So Skype is coming in as you will be able to search for Skype people within Teams. So again, that's addition to the feature set. But again, the main focus of Microsoft Teams is to be a business platform. It's to allow you as a team to collaborate and communicate, not just communicate. So integration with the rest of the platform and the ability to not just talk about business, but do business while you're on in the team itself, on a call, in a chat, is what Microsoft Teams is all about. So let's not confuse it with other products that are just there to do a simple click of a button and get in a session. But it's not the same. You're comparing apples and oranges largely. I'm new to Microsoft Teams. What is it? Oh, hopefully I've covered this one too. How can it work for a small team? Regardless of the size of the team, everybody needs a strategy of how they're going to be using Teams, and you need a discussion as a business of these are our do's and don'ts. Yeah, so I did an article a little while back about do's and don'ts. It's the same essentially with any chat platform. So if somebody sends you a message that just says hi, as an end user, you've got no filter of how urgent that conversation is. So it's kind of bad practice to wait for somebody to say hello to you before you give the message content. So it's worth saying, hi, I need a bit of quick advice, but it will take you less than 5 minutes. Can you spare it? Or to give a bit more context, because maybe I'm already in a meeting relevant to it, etc., and I can quickly answer you. So there's several do's and don'ts, and there's loads of blog articles and video content out there about Teams. So I can see a couple. I can see a couple of questions that I'll just go through with that. So when holding meetings, webinars, is there the functionality to add in polls to see who's attending? Okay, so the as far as the attendance is concerned, we do know under the hood who is attending. Certainly with live events like this, what will happen afterwards is we'll be able to have an attendance register where it will show us in Excel who attended the meeting. Really useful. And again, it will bring the Q&A out into that structure as well. So that's really useful. Also, if you're in an education product, they have done, I think it's a Power App that you can run within the team that effectively takes attendance, which is really useful in an education setting or an event attendance. What's the next one? Is there a maximum number of people who can attend a meeting? Again, this number is changing all the time, and I'll refer you to the roadmap. We have and the functionality of those attendees is changing all the time as well. So while it is somewhere in the thousands at the moment, and I attend a lot of Microsoft team meetings, as in with Microsoft, where there's a huge group of people attending. And one of the limitations is that only 100 people at the moment will get the chat facility within that meeting. And they're extending that, I believe, to 1,000 now. So keep watching on those numbers, but I can say that it is a high number at the moment, somewhere in the region of, I think, 250 plus the last time I looked at the number, but it may even be higher than that right now. Can I delete a chat message if I've sent it to the wrong person? Yes, you can actually, but I will warn you, it does show up, Mandy, as deleted. So there will just be a line in there that says deleted. And only you, as the person that wrote the message, can delete the message. And I believe once you've deleted it, you can even reinstate it. One of the nice things you can do with a chat message is you can go back and edit it. So if you're like me and you just type and then hit go and you look up and you're like, oh my God, so many typos in that particular chat message, that you can just click the button and edit. And one of the things that we really like about those conversations and about chat is actually the responses that you can give to those. So there is in the top right hand corner of every conversation message, the triple dots allows you to put a thumbs up or a heart or a shocked face or an angry face or a happy face. There's only about 5 or 6 of them, but we use that internally as a method of being able to clarify that everybody's seen a message. So if I was to post a message to the all group and say, can everybody make sure that their webcams are on for this afternoon's meeting, I will get however many thumbs ups, and I can click on the thumbs up or hover on the thumbs up and it will show me who has acknowledged that they've seen that message. So again, you have your own little internal ways of interacting with those conversations. Another question, can polls be integrated to live meetings events? I actually believe they can. I haven't actually done that myself, but you can use Microsoft Forms. In here, you can have the Q&A, you can publish some of those questions. So you could effectively, I can ask you a question and you can all respond. So I effectively make an announcement and ask you all to respond. But there are loads of other tools that you can integrate with that I've seen used. So again, we could switch to, I could give you an address of a Microsoft form, for example, in this, and I could make that as an announcement, have you all fill that in. I could have a dashboard as one of my slides that when I get to that side is dynamically updated with that data, and I've seen that done really effectively in some community presentations. So there's a lot that you can do with that integration. And kind of talking about that advanced development that you can do with that. It's just showing you here, this page that one of our partners has put up, is that I've done a couple of videos on a business productivity series already, which are up on YouTube, where you can have a look at a contract management solution that I've put up there. So what this is creating documents, complex documents, from data added to a SharePoint list. And these videos will walk you through the creation of that entire product. So you'll be able to do that for yourselves, or it might give you some ideas of what you can do. But essentially the team's experience of this is that the list for adding, company name, company number to an NDA, for example, the list is available as a tab in the team, and then the completed document is available as a tab in the team. What happens underneath is for the admins to deal with. The template location for getting the most up-to-date template is a restricted SharePoint place elsewhere. But what this means is that we can have just the bits that the team needs to see to be able to execute some of those applications that's needed for automation within a team can easily be added to Microsoft Teams. I've got another one that will go live in the next few weeks, talking about learning as a team and how we can use Microsoft Stream and some Microsoft Forms to be able to build in some information and create a dashboard. And again, easy follow along steps within videos for you. And yes, Lindsay, that is a nice website. Okay. So please do come along to my YouTube channel. Please do let me have some feedback. I'm a community speaker, so I'm here for you. Whatever questions you've got, however you need to be using those tools, let us know, and we'll be creating some more content for you around that. I think I'm just about, how are we doing? 20 minutes to the hour. So we're done a little bit early. Again, thank you very much. We will be putting this out live on YouTube as a recording, so you will be able to see the content. I'm 30 seconds ahead of you because this is a live event, but what we'll do is we will create this content, we'll put it on YouTube, and we'll also put a transcript up there as well. So if anybody's got any questions afterwards, please do come to me. I'm available on Twitter. I'm doing community calls in evenings and weekends for anybody that needs help immediately. So if anybody knows somebody that is stuck on anything with Microsoft Teams, get in touch. That's what I'm here for. If you've got a bigger project that you want us to look at for anybody as business cloud integration, then give me a shout on that too, and we'll have a conversation about how we can help your team adopt Teams and become a team. A little bit of overuse of the word. All right. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you, Andrew. Lovely to see that you've attended. And thank you for saying thank you. And if anybody has any questions, please do get in touch with us. And I look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.